Hello everyone and welcome to this week's lore video of the Dragon Age lore series. As promised and as the people on Twitter have voted upon, today we will talk about the Qunari. The Qunari is a relatively new race to Thedas. They are a very powerful people. On average, they are 1 foot taller than humans, which is 30 centimeters for, the rest of the world. Most of them have horns coming out of their heads. These horns do not have any nerve endings, but it still can get irritated. Some of them do not have the horns at all, which is a rare genetic mutation that is considered special and gives the Qunari a chance for a prestigious role among their people. The word Qunari itself refers to the followers of the religious text known as the Qun, and not the race itself, as the ancient horned race was originally named the Qasith, a name that is no longer used and only known by scholars and researchers. The first human encounter with the Qasith was when they had a colony in the southern Qunari wilds, but in -410 ancient, the colony was overrun by darkspawn during the first blight, and some researchers believe that this is where all the ogre darkspawn come from. After that, the race all but disappeared and no one would hear again from them for the next 1,000 years. The Qunari teaching doesn't care about the race of the person as much as they care about them following the Qun or not. And because of selective breeding throughout the ages, it is unknown what the Qasith originally looked like. Immediately after arriving to Thedas from the uncharted lands of the north, by the means of great warships named the Dreadnoughts, the Qunari started dominating the land and the people, especially humans who appeared to have a lax principle against magic in relation to the Qun. The Qunari are perceived by many as tyrannical and evil, and that people under the Qun lack personal freedom. In the lands conquered by the Qun, all other beliefs are dismissed. Families are broken, marriages are forbidden, and if anyone resisted, they get sent to certain camps for re-education by a secret police called the Ben Hasrath, who are responsible for enforcing the strict rules of the Qun. Up to Trespasser DLC, there was a peace treaty between the Qunari and the rest of Thedas, save the Tevinter Imperium, but it was always known that future conflict was almost guaranteed, as according to the Qunari, the Qun must spread as it benefits everyone. As stated before in my non-human religions video, the Qasith started with praying to nature gods. They were wild, undisciplined, which kept them from achieving greatness. But then a certain Ashkari named Qusloon started some teachings that were the base of what is now the disciplined godless Qunari. The said teachings had 2 main concepts: mastery, or iskun, which is quote-unquote, to know something is to understand it, to know why it is, what it is, as well as what it is not. To know something is to possess the power to master it, and only in the lack of knowledge lies weakness. And the other concept is balance, or akun. To exist without balance is to fall, to break, to yield. Only with balance can true stillness be achieved. When one is still, one is free to listen and know. In knowing, become strong. With strength become steel, and as steel endure. Qusloon is said to have reached his philosophy when he wandered the lands looking for a society without despair or hopelessness. After wandering for so much time and so much distance, he could not find such a society. He found people who were happy and content, but discovered that it will always come at the expense of others. Thinking that he has failed, he exiled himself to the desert, where he encountered a massive swarm of locusts, which inspired him to write down the new philosophy, now known as the Tome of Qusloon. He believed in something called Asit Tal Eb, which translates to "it is to be," which is that everything in this world has a nature, and if everything worked together according to this nature, the order of the world will be correct. Just like how the locust devouring the crops, because each single individual locust had a purpose that it fulfilled, the individual is not truly an individual, but a part of a whole, and any disruption of this balance disrupt the balance of the whole, and the whole society falls.
How is everyday life different for Qunari?
Depends on your job, I guess. Some are just about the same. A baker in Valroyo gets up, gets dressed, and starts work. A baker in Parvolan does the same thing. They don't care about the Empire or the Qun. Mostly they worry about breaking eggs and hope the dough rises right.
It can't be exactly the same. The Qunari have no personal freedoms.
How many personal freedoms do you figure that baker in Valroyo has? Life isn't about freedom. The baker in Parvolan wonders if she'll be given enough eggs to do her work. Will they come on time? Will the kitchen workers get her bread while it's fresh, or will they come late and blame her 'cause it's stale? Same crap in Valroyo. People are just people.
The Canary Society is related heavily to the philosophy of the Qun, as the Qun dictates every single aspect of the Qunari life. Strict adherence to the rule is more important than any individual freedom. As a result, the Qunari does not allow by any shape or form the existence of any sort of religions. When the Qun became law, all the temples of the ancient Kosoth gods were destroyed, and the priests had two choices: get re-educated or leave the lands. Any other religions are completely forbidden and sometimes met with violence if necessary. The Qunari thinks of their society as a whole living being, whose well-being is the responsibility of all. Everyone has a role that they have to adhere to. Roles come to the Qunari before even a name. A sten of the Berasad is called sten. A Sarabas, which translates to a mage, is also named a Sarabas. If the role ever changes, the person's name changes with it. They still have a string of numbers as names that the Masrans keep for record keeping, and sometimes they even utilize the use of nicknames. There are no family concept among the Qunari. Marriage is not a thing. They don't even pursue relationships. The parents' role ends at conception and birth giving. Under the Qun, your family is your peers. The upbringing of the children is a task for the Tamasrans, who are responsible for teaching the children about the Qun and making sure they grow up as helpful, obedient parts of the Qun. They are also responsible for discovering what the role of said children will best utilize their talents and assigning said roles to them by the age of 12.
What's it like growing up under the Qun?
The Tamasrans raise us in these units of kids all our own age. They're like teachers or chantry sisters. They also help figure out what jobs we should do. They had me pegged for military work early on. When they learned I could hit stuff and lie, they started training me for the Ben Hasrath.
So the Qun decided what work you would do. You didn't get a choice.
I could have acted like I didn't like hitting things, I guess. But why would I do that? I was good at my work. I liked doing it. Far as I can tell, the Tamasrans made the right call.
The Qunari believes that each gender is better at something than the other. For example, no matter how a male Qunari shows aptitude to management, he will never be as good at it as a female. Therefore, it is considered a waste to put a male in such role. And Qunari do not like wasting resources, including people. Some exceptions appear, albeit rare. A male could be a farmer and a woman could be a warrior, but still, in such cases, it's still separated. A female warrior's task will differ greatly from a male's warrior. A male farmer's job will be different than the female farmer's job. There is no job under the Qun occupied by both genders where they do the exact same job. They do not believe in private property, as lands belong to everyone. They don't even have a currency to trade with one another, as the merchant's job under the Qun is to make sure that all goods are distributed properly among the populace. Sometimes the Qunari will trade with other nations, but the reason behind this trade is not to purchase new items, but to spy and learn about other nations who are yet to embrace the Qun. Even though the Qunari do not worship anything, they still revere dragons. They call a high dragon Atashi, which translates to the glorious one. Some of this reference comes from the physical similarity between them and dragons. Still, they do not practically worship dragons, as this conflict with their ideology, and they believe that dragons are savage creatures that have to be put down in order not to wreak havoc and disturb the order. The triumvirate, or the Salasari in Qunalt, which is the Qunari language, is the governing body of the society. It consists of 3 pillars. Arishok, which represents the body and governs the soldiers, he is always a male. Arigena, which is the mind and governs the craftsmen and is always a female. And lastly, the Arikun, which is the soul and governs the priesthood and does not have a gender requirement. The 3 individuals divide and govern the society under the nation that must be.
We have little to discuss, human. For now, I would think on the fate of this city.
I don't think Kirkwall would do well under military rule.
The rule of the Qun is not military. It is discipline and order.
How is that different?
To your limited understanding, it is not. You fear soldiers that arrive to remove your pitiable vices. But they do not control Qunari. The triumvirate divides and governs. One is nothing without the others.
Can you tell me about the other 2 parts?
No.
Now you're just being difficult.
I am no more equipped to explain than you are to understand. Arishok, Arigena, Arikun, pillars of the Qunari, of the nation that must be. There is but one way to know these things, human, and I have yet to decide if it must be done.
The Antam is the body in Qunalt, and it is the military part of the ruling body. It is described as the eyes, ears, arms, legs of the Qunari. It is what usually used to interact with something. This is why most of the Qunari encountered in Thedas are from the military. Everyone in the Antam is always male. Even if they are biologically females, they are considered a Qunathlok, where they are treated as male, since in their eyes this is a male job. The purpose of the Antam is not only defense, but also to gather intelligence for the Qun, to conquer who becomes a threat, and seek and destroy enemies of the Qun. The Birasad serves as the vanguard of the Antam, branching outside of Qunari lands to seek answers for the Arishok's questions. Taribas is another rank in the military, specialized in going forth and finding the weapons of fallen Qunari. Arvarad is a person that holds back evil, because one of the core concepts of being a Qunari is self-control. Someone always must be looking after people who are deemed not able to do so, like mages or Cerebas or Talvashoth. Arvarad could be considered the Templars of the Canary Society. The Ben Hasrath, which translates to the heart of the many, is part of the Qunari priesthood. They fall under the authority of the Arikun, hence they are considered priests. They are also known as secret police. They enforce religious laws, responsible for policing the population and also re-education if needed. There is some sort of mini triumvirate that manage the Ben Hasrath operation. The Dangerous Questions branch handles the majority of the Qunari and handles sabotage missions. The Dangerous Action branch is responsible for reinforcement. And lastly, the Dangerous Purpose is run by Vidasala, the one who converts purpose. And they are basically in charge of converting new people to the Qun through re-education and to control and quarantine magic.
The Vidasala? That's a high-ranking Ben Hasrath, specializes in magic, finding, studying, stopping.
Qunari are considered more technologically advanced than all other races in Thedas save the dwarves. Their capital city, named Qunari, is famous for its great domes and aqueducts. Their buildings usually resemble beehives. They also have developed an explosive powder known as the Gatlock, which is very useful as it does not require lyrium to operate. Its recipe is a very carefully guarded secret, but the Inquisitor, throughout the events of Trespasser DLC, acquires such recipe, and it's basically 1 part Atashi or High Dragon Venom, 1 part Deathroot, and 3 parts Silverite. They also developed a very potent poison called Sarkamek, which will kill its subjects, albeit after driving them to madness. However, there is a known antidote for such poison that could be taken preemptively that will neutralize the effects of the poison. Their massive dreadnought wooden ships, also known as the floating fortresses, allows the Qunari to navigate the seas easily. However, the allied nation relied on the mages to counter the cannons of said dreadnoughts. As a Qunari saying goes, as does a drowning man know of the sea, so does a mage know of magic. The Qunari calls their mages Cerebas, which translates to the dangerous thing. And they believe that the mages are absolutely unable to master themselves. That's why mages always have to be controlled by an Arvarad. They do not blame them for their magic, but pity them for the fate they have. Mages are treated horribly, they are leashed, bound, collared, and their mouths are soon shut. If a mage is suspected to dabble in forbidden magic, their tongues get cuts as well. The Qunari view this sacrifice as the greatest value of the Qun. Other nations outside of the Qunari lands are labeled Kabithari, which literally translates to those who need to be taught. They see them as inferiors who are to be conquered and enlightened. When a land is newly conquered, families are torn, children are to be taken to be raised as Qunari, while the adults are shipped to learning camps, where they are to be re-educated by the Ben Hasrath. If the adult is to resist, they are taken to a Vedathlock to be cured, as refusal to cooperate is considered an illness within the Qun. What happens in the Vedathlock is unknown, but it is suspected that they use a substance known as Kamek to make their minds more amenable. Some people return from said camps altered or changed, some would die from exhaustion, and some are never to be heard from again. New converts from other races are called Vedathari. They can rise into ranks to reach higher ones like Arikon or Arishok if they prove their dedication, but it is far less likely as the Qunari have way more numbers than the Vedathari. Some Qunari break out of the order and run away and pursue their own individual lives somewhere else. They are called Talvashoth, which translates to the true Grey Ones, a name they gave themselves. The name is not specific to the race, however, as former Vedathari who abandoned the Qun are also called Talvashoth. The word Vashoth, on the other hand, is a Qunari who was born outside of the Qun and never had to live under its thumb. But since they basically did not rebel against the Qun like the Talvashoth, they can get accepted back into the order if they wish. Talvashoth sometimes rebel against their predetermined role under the Qun. Some are more ambitious than becoming a tailor or a cook, so they rebel and break out and risk their life on the run. If they are captured, they are instantly shipped to be re-educated. Most of the Talvashoth become bandits outside of Qunari lands as their physical prowess always gives them an advantage. The Talvashoth is not a unified nation or an organized culture. Some of them choose to cut off their horns because they think it makes them look tougher. Unfortunately, they are feared and misunderstood in southern Thedas, like in Orlais or Ferelden, because people assume that they have no feelings or they are just some brutes. I gathered some fun facts about the Qunari from the Wikipedia. For example, no Qunari ever joined the Grey Wardens, but it is said in the past decades some Talvashoth have taken the joining. Female Qunari or a Kothith produces ogres if she gets turned into a broodmother. If Kieran, Morrigan's son, has the soul of an old god, he comments on Qunari Inquisitors' appearance and say that their blood doesn't belong to their people. If the Qunari Inquisitor sides with the Templars, Corypheus in his memories referred to them as a beast of strange blood. And during the final battle he says, "What do they call you? A Qunari? Your blood is engorged with decay. Your race is not a race, it is a mistake." Qunari was supposed to always have horns, but they were cut off from Dragon Age Origins to make Sten able to wear helmets. The absence of cookies in Qunari culture is due to the Qunari being efficient and people bake cookies from leftovers, and the Qunari plan everything so they never have any leftovers. Thank you so much for listening, and I really hope you enjoyed this week's video. I had some trouble trying to find some footage for this video, so I really hope by the time I upload this I would have found even more footage. And I'd like to thank Jasmine from Twitter for providing me with a great clip from the Qunari and Trespasser. I would also like to thank K-Star and Pushtat for providing me some clips as well. Thank you, girls. I love you. So thank you, everyone, and see you next week. Goodbye.